I won't do it. You can't make me marry some animal from the mountains.
Isla's voice cracked as her father's hands struck her cheek, the sound echoing through their empty parlor. "You'll do exactly as you're told, girl," he hissed, whiskey on his breath. "Kieran Ridge paid your price, $2,300. You belong to him now." The marriage contract lay on the table between them, her father's signature already drying in ink. Outside, a man's shadow fell across the doorway, tall, broad, silent as death itself. Before we continue, please subscribe to our channel and stay with this story until the very end. Comment the city you're watching from so I can see how far our story has traveled. Isla's hands wouldn't stop shaking. She stared at the contract, at the name written in bold, unfamiliar script, Kieran Ridge. The man her father had sold her to like livestock. "He's waiting downstairs," her father said, already turning away from her. "Don't embarrass me."
Embarrass you? Isla's laugh came out bitter and sharp. You gambled away everything we had, Father. Our home, Mother's jewelry. And when that wasn't enough, you gambled away me.
He spun back, rage flooding his weathered face. "Watch your mouth. Ridge is doing us a kindness, paying off what I owe. You should be grateful."
Grateful?
Isla stood, her chair scraping against the wooden floor.
He's a stranger, a mountain man. People say he's barely civilized, that he—
"People say a lot of things." Her father's voice dropped low, dangerous. "What I know is this. You marry him tomorrow, or Garrett's men will come for me. And when they're done with me, they'll come for you. Is that what you want?" The threat hung in the air between them. Isla knew Garrett. Everyone in Cedar Falls knew him. A man who collected debts the way other men collected stamps, and he wasn't particular about how he got paid.
"How could you do this?" she whispered.
Her father looked away. "Get yourself ready. Ridge wants to meet you before the ceremony." "Now? Tonight?" "He's downstairs. Been waiting 20 minutes already." Isla's stomach dropped.
"I need time to—"
"You need to do as you're told." Her father walked to the door, paused with his hand on the knob. "And Isla, don't make this harder than it needs to be. The man paid good money for you." The door closed behind him with a soft click. Isla stood alone in her childhood bedroom, surrounded by the ghosts of a life that was ending. Tomorrow, she would marry a stranger. Tomorrow, she would leave everything she knew. Tomorrow, she would belong to Kieran Ridge. She forced herself to the mirror, studied her reflection with critical eyes. Pale skin, dark hair that wouldn't hold a curl, eyes too wide and too frightened. What had this mountain man seen when he looked at her contract? What had made her worth $2,300? The thought made her sick. Downstairs, voices murmured. Her father's nervous tenor and something deeper, quieter. A voice that seemed to carry weight even when speaking softly. Isla straightened her dress, pinched color into her cheeks, and descended the stairs like a woman walking to her execution. Kieran Ridge stood in their parlor, making the small room seem even smaller. He was taller than any man Isla had ever seen, broad-shouldered and lean in the way of someone who'd spent years doing hard labor. His clothes were simple, dark trousers, a worn shirt, boots that had seen countless miles. His face was all sharp angles and hard lines, a scar cutting through his left eyebrow, his jaw shadowed with stubble. But it was his eyes that stopped her cold, gray as winter storms and just as unreadable. "Miss Thornton." His voice matched his appearance, low, rough, controlled. "I'm Kieran Ridge." Isla's father jabbed her with his elbow. "Say hello, girl."
"Mr. Ridge?"
Her voice came out steadier than she felt.
"My father says we're to be married tomorrow."
"That's right." He didn't move, didn't smile, didn't offer any of the social pleasantries she'd expected. "I wanted to meet you first, make sure you understood the arrangement." "The arrangement?" Isla heard the edge in her own voice. "You mean the one where you bought me, like property?" Her father sucked in a sharp breath. "Isla, no!" Kieran's single word cut through the room. "Let her speak." He turned those storm-gray eyes fully on her, and Isla felt suddenly, acutely aware of how completely alone she was. This man could do anything, say anything. Her father wouldn't stop him, couldn't stop him, not with $2,300 already changed hands. "What do you want to say, Miss Thornton?" Isla lifted her chin. "I want to say that I don't know you. I don't know anything about you, except rumors and whispers. I want to say that I never agreed to this, that my father had no right to—" Her voice cracked. "To sell me!" Silence filled the parlor. Then Kieran nodded once, slow and deliberate. "You're right. You didn't agree. And your father did sell you." He glanced at the older man with something like contempt. "The question is, what are you going to do about it?" Isla blinked. "What?" "You could run," Kieran said simply. "Take whatever money you have, catch the morning stage out of Cedar Falls. I wouldn't stop you." "But the debt," her father started. "The debt is paid," Kieran said, not looking at him. "I bought the contract from Garrett yesterday. What Miss Thornton chooses to do now is her business." Isla's heart hammered against her ribs. "You'd let me go? Just like that?" "I'm not in the habit of forcing women into my bed, Miss Thornton. If you want to leave, leave." "Then why—" Isla struggled to understand. "Why pay the money at all?" For the first time, something flickered in Kieran's expression. Not warmth exactly, but something less cold. "Because I needed a wife, and you needed a way out. Seemed like we could help each other." "Help each other," Isla repeated slowly. "By marriage." "By partnership." Kieran's gaze held hers.
And I'm trying to figure out how to keep living." He paused. "You asking because you're worried I'm comparing you to her?" "Maybe." "Don't. You're not Sarah. You're Isla. That's enough." The simplicity of it took her breath away. They worked through the afternoon. Kieran taught her how to milk the goats, how to collect eggs without spooking the chickens, how to tell which plants near the cabin were edible and which would make her sick. He was patient, thorough, never making her feel stupid for not knowing things that were obvious to him. "You're a good student," he said as the sun began to set. "Better than I expected." "What did you expect?" "Thought you might cry more. Thought you might hate it here." He looked at her curiously. "But you don't, do you? Hate it?" Isla considered the question honestly. "No, I don't hate it. It's different. Hard. But," she struggled for words, "it feels real. Like the life I had before was just pretend." Kieran nodded slowly. "I know what you mean." They ate dinner together, the conversation coming easier now. Isla asked about the mountains, and Kieran told her stories, about winters that lasted 6 months, about wildlife he'd seen, about the way the aspens turned gold in autumn and made the whole mountain look like it was on fire. "I want to see that," Isla said. "The aspens." "You will, if you stay." "If I stay," she repeated. That night, lying in her bed, Isla listened to Kieran moving around in his own room. The creak of floorboards, the rustle of blankets, the sigh of a man settling into sleep. The sounds were becoming familiar, comforting even. She thought about her father, wondered if he'd even noticed she was gone yet. Probably not. Probably he was just relieved to have the debt paid, to have Garrett's men off his back. She thought about Sarah, standing on that corner in town, crying. Her last friend. Her last tie to the old life. And she thought about Kieran, this quiet, careful man who'd bought her freedom with money and given her choices when he didn't have to, who taught her how to survive and ask for nothing in return, who was lonely, just like her. Isla pulled the quilts up to her chin and closed her eyes, and for the first time in years, she didn't cry herself to sleep. She just slept. The scream woke her. Isla sat bolt upright in bed, heart hammering, trying to place the sound. For a terrible moment, she thought it was an animal, a mountain lion maybe, or a wolf. Then it came again, raw and broken and unmistakably human. Kieran. She threw off the quilts, ran to his door without thinking. "Kieran, are you—" "Don't come in." His voice was sharp, desperate. "Just stay out there, please." Isla pressed her palm against the door, heard him breathing hard on the other side. "What's wrong? Are you hurt?" "No, I'm fine. Just a nightmare. Go back to bed." "You don't sound fine." Silence. Then, quieter. "I get them sometimes. Dreams about Sarah, about losing her. They're worse this time of year." Isla's throat tightened. "Can I do anything?" "No, just—" He exhaled shakily. "Just knowing you're there helps. Knowing I'm not alone." She stood outside his door for a long moment, listening to him calm himself, wanting to help and not knowing how. Finally, she said, "I'm right across the hall, if you need anything." "I know. Thank you." Isla returned to her room, but didn't sleep. She lay awake listening to Kieran move around, the creak of his bed, footsteps pacing, the sound of water being poured. A man wrestling with ghosts he couldn't fight. In the morning, neither of them mentioned it. "Storm's coming," Kieran said over breakfast, his eyes shadowed, but his voice steady. "Big one, by the look of the clouds. We need to get the animals secured and bring in extra wood." How big? Could last 3, 4 days, maybe longer. He studied her face. You ever been through a real mountain storm? No. Then you're about to learn. He stood, started gathering supplies. Put on your warmest clothes. We've got work to do. They spent the morning preparing. Kieran showed her how to reinforce the barn, how to make sure the animals had enough food and water to last. They hauled wood until Isla's arms ached, stacking it inside the cabin where it would stay dry. Is this really necessary? She asked, watching the sky. It looked threatening, but not catastrophic. You'll see. Kieran's expression was grim. Mountain storms aren't like town storms. They don't just blow through. They settle in and try to kill you. The first drops of rain began to fall near noon. By evening, the storm had arrived in full force. Wind howled around the cabin like something alive and furious. Rain lashed the windows in sheets. Thunder cracked so loud it shook the walls. Isla stood by the window, watching the storm with a mixture of awe and terror. Get away from the glass, Kieran said sharply. It's just a storm. That's not just a storm. That's the mountain trying to remind us who's in charge. He pulled her away from the window. Come, sit by the fire. Stay warm. They sat in silence, listening to the rage outside. The cabin groaned under the assault, but held firm. Kieran had built it well. You're scared, he said after a while. I'm not. It's all right to be scared. I'm a little scared too. Isla looked at him in surprise. You? You've lived through dozens of storms like this. everything gone so wrong so fast. She'd pushed too hard, said things she had no right to say, thrown Sarah's death in his face like a weapon. Isla stopped when she reached the stream, collapsed on a fallen log, and let herself cry. For Kieran. For Sarah. For herself and this impossible situation she'd gotten herself into. She didn't hear him approach until he spoke. "You're right." Isla's head jerked up. Kieran stood a few feet away, hands in his pockets, looking more vulnerable than she'd ever seen him. "I'm sorry," she said immediately. "I shouldn't have said—" "No, you should have." He moved closer. "Someone needed to say it. I've been using Sarah as an excuse to avoid living, to avoid feeling, to avoid the risk of losing someone again." He sat beside her on the log. "And you're right. It's cowardice." "Kieran, let me finish, please." He took a shaky breath. "I've been so focused on not betraying Sarah's memory that I forgot what she actually wanted for me. She made me promise to find happiness again, to let someone else in." His voice cracked. "I think she'd like you, Isla. I think she'd be glad I found you." Isla's throat tightened. "You don't have to say that." "I'm not just saying it. I mean it." He turned to face her fully. "These past weeks with you have been— God, I don't even have words for it. Terrifying and exhilarating and more alive than I felt in 5 years. Then why do you keep pushing me away?" "Because I'm a fool. Because I'm scared. Because every time I look at you, I want things I'm afraid to want." His hand found hers. "Because falling in love with you would mean admitting Sarah is truly gone. And I don't know if I'm ready for that." The confession shattered something in Isla's chest. "I'm not asking you to forget her," she said softly. "I would never ask that. She was part of your life, part of who you are. I can't compete with that, and I don't want to." "Then what are you asking?" "I'm asking you to make room. In your heart, in your life, in this cabin. Room for both, the memory of what you had and the possibility of what we could have." She squeezed his hand. "I'm asking you to let yourself love again, Kieran, even if it scares you, even if it hurts. And if I can't, if I'm too damaged, then we figure it out together. But at least we'll be trying." Isla met his eyes. "The only thing I can't accept is you giving up before we even start." Kieran studied her face for a long moment. Then, slowly, he raised her hand to his lips and pressed a gentle kiss to her knuckles. "You're incredible. You know that? I'm desperate and stubborn and probably crazy for falling for a mountain man who bought me like livestock." "You're falling for me?" The question came out rough, hopeful. Isla laughed through her tears. "You hadn't noticed?" "I was trying not to hope." He cupped her face with his free hand. "Isla, if we do this, if we really try, I need you to know it won't be easy. I'm going to mess up. I'm going to have bad days where all I can think about is what I lost. I'm going to— I know. And I'm going to have days where I'm angry at my father, or scared of the mountain, or frustrated with how hard this life is." She leaned into his touch. "We're both broken, Kieran. But maybe we can be broken together." "Together," he repeated, like he was testing the word. Then he kissed her. It was gentle, tentative, nothing like Isla had imagined. His lips were soft against hers, asking permission even as he took it. She answered by wrapping her arms around his neck, pulling him closer, letting herself fall into the moment. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Kieran rested his forehead against hers. "I'm still scared," he admitted. "Good. So am I," Isla smiled. "But I'd rather be scared together than safe and alone." "When did you get so wise?" "Somewhere between losing everything and finding you. They sat by the stream until the sun began to set, talking in quiet voices, making tentative plans for a future that suddenly seemed possible. Kieran told her about the garden he wanted to plant come spring, about improvements to the cabin, about maybe getting a cow if they could manage it. Isla talked about learning to hunt, about wanting to explore more of the mountain, about maybe writing to Sarah back in Cedar Falls. "You miss her," Kieran observed. "Your friend." "Every day. She was the only person who—" Isla stopped, emotion clogging her throat. "Who what?" "Who made me feel like I mattered. Like I wasn't just my father's burden or some man's property." She wiped her eyes. "Until you." Kieran pulled her close. "You matter, Isla. To me. More than you know." They walked back to the cabin hand in hand, the gesture small but significant. Inside, Kieran built up the fire while Isla started dinner. They moved around each other with new ease, the awkwardness replaced by something warmer, more comfortable. Over dinner, Kieran reached across the table and took her hand. "I want to try," he said simply. "Really try. Not just an arrangement, a real marriage." "Are you sure?" "No, but I'm willing to find out." His thumb traced circles on her palm. "The pass is open in 3 weeks. If you still want to leave, then—" "I won't." Isla said it with certainty she felt in her bones. "I'm staying, Kieran. I'm choosing you. I'm choosing us." Relief flooded his face. "Even knowing how hard it'll be?" "Especially knowing that." She stood, moved around the table to him. "Because nothing worth having comes easy. You taught me that." Kieran pulled her onto his lap, held her